Hey all, Jade Indigo here. Thank you so much for coming to visit today and spend some time with me, especially if you're returning because of all the, given all the issues I've had, I'm a little surprised that people do come back. In any case, I have another little fun video for you today that I thought was kind of fun. One of the things that I have been learning about on my tarot journey is various superstitions and whatnot. Reading things on Facebook, watching YouTube videos, you see all kinds of different different takes on different things. So I thought it would be kind of fun to touch on those from the perspective of a beginner. And hopefully, if you're new, then welcome, and I hope that you take something away from this, even if it is just to do your own research and think about your own beliefs. But what I would like to say actually before I get into this is this again, these are the things that I've been thinking about and researching, and these are my own opinions. This is my own tarot journey. So if something resonates with you, great. I'm glad it helps. So you take, as Ethany likes to say, take what works for you, and feel free to leave the rest. Now, if you do have a different opinion about something, I'm happy to have a respectful conversation about it. I think that's how we learn and open up our perspectives. So if you have a different opinion about something, please do leave me a comment. I'd love to have a conversation with people about anything that I discuss here or anything tarot related. So please do leave me your comments. Anyway, today, as I said, I would like to talk about some of the different superstitions that I have read about, and I pulled out some I pulled out some specific decks today, and I'll talk about those. But the first one that I have heard about is all about touching your cards. So, do you allow people to touch your cards? By the way, I'm trying a slightly different setup where I'm sort of filming from the side because I was finding it a little bit challenging to reach onto the table from behind the camera, so on a little stand without knocking things over. So let me know if this works for you, or if you have any different suggestions. I'm happy to hear about them. Please. So anyway, so back to the touching your cards. So do you allow people to touch your cards? I keep hearing different things. Some people say you should, as a reader, you're the only one who should touch your cards at all. Other people say no, if you're reading for someone else, then you really do need that person, the querent, the person the reading is for, to put their energy into the deck so that the answers that come back are kind of keyed to that person. Others say no, there's no way I'm letting people do that. There's a risk of damaging the cards. I don't believe that people need to touch their energy. Maybe the reader will shuffle the cards and then just allow the querent to cut the cards. So they're still laying their hands on them. So that kind of thing. So what do you do? In my opinion is that this is really just a preference thing. I've let friends that I trust look through my cards. And as for shuffling, I personally would probably not let anyone else shuffle them, but not because of any superstition, more from a longevity and durability perspective. I know that when I first started learning the tarot and trying to do readings and shuffling, which was only 2.5 months ago, I really, cards were sort of going flying everywhere. I think I bent a card or two, and it would really suck if someone other than me damaged my cards accidentally. I wouldn't want anyone to feel bad, nor would I want to feel bad about that. Anyway, so you let me know what you think. What are your thoughts about this? The second superstition, you have to be gifted a deck. Okay. In my opinion, this is total BS. In my opinion, it is the remnant of a gatekeeping function by the old guard. In order to keep this as mystical a process as possible and protect our business, we need to make sure that people don't even think they can figure this out for themselves type of crap. If you want to wait for someone to gift you a deck, that's great. You can certainly do that. If I waited, 99% chance, 100% chance that I would never get it. I think it's all about restricted access, and I think that's total garbage, especially in today's day and age. So that's my take on it. What's yours? The third superstition is that you have to shuffle a certain way, or you can only read a certain way, or you're wrong if you read in any other way other than X. Again, in my opinion, these are all my opinions, this is all BS. I think you can shuffle whatever way you want, whether it's overhand like this, or doing the bridge. I can't do it. I'm not even gonna attempt it because cards go flying everywhere, and that's how I actually ended up bending one of my cards, which I was quite upset about. Anyway, I still think that is all a gatekeeping thing. Again, it's my opinion. Let me know what you think. How do you shuffle, by the way? I tend to just do this, either front and back. I sometimes, I do have a deck that has more rubbery cardstock, and I have done a semi-bridge, by which I mean I do let's see if I could do this. I don't have much room here, but I do this part. This is not gonna work. Nope. These are brand new cards, and I also don't know how to do this, but I do this part, but I don't try to do the bridge. I just pull them together. And then I repeat it a couple of times. That's what I do. And, but most of the time, like I said, I just shuffle this way and repeat a couple of times. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll just grab a chunk from the middle and do that. I don't know if I'm way too close to the camera here. Or I'll go front, back, that kind of thing. That's my opinion. Let me know what you do. The fourth superstition, you can only read for yourself, or you can read for others, but not both. Again, I call BS. In the beginning, when you're just learning, like me, and you want to practice, right? You can't learn anything without practicing. You can learn the theory, but you can't, without actually practicing, it's not going to work. Remember in Harry Potter, if you're a Harry Potter fan and you watched The Order of the Phoenix, which was the 5th movie, when Dolores Umbridge becomes the Defense Against Dark Arts teacher, and the Ministry of Magic has decided that the only magic that would be taught would be theoretical, so from books, no practical magic. Well, again, everything's all about practice, including that magic. That was just a gatekeeping thing. They didn't want people to learn how to do magic. I think it's the same thing here. People just don't want, I think either people just want to put limits on others. I don't know. I think some people put those limits on themselves too, because I have heard from some people saying that they, primarily on Facebook, in some of the Facebook groups that I'm in, I've heard people say, "Oh, I can only read for other people." When I try to read cards for myself, the cards don't speak to me. I don't know. I don't understand it, because if you put some cards out, the meanings are the meanings, right? I don't understand. I don't understand what people mean. If this is you, could you please let me know? Because I'm really curious about this. I don't get it. I don't understand. I know that sometimes we're too close to a situation and we're maybe reading into the cards what we want to read into them. That's no different than listening to someone try to tell you something you don't want to hear. But I don't understand what it is that people mean when they say the cards don't speak to them. Because the cards don't speak. They're just, in my opinion, as with anything else, they're just pictures on paper. And you learn what the meanings are, and you as you go through your studies and your intuition gets better, and you develop your own relationship with the cards, and the cards mean certain things to you based on your experience. I don't understand how that is affected by reading for yourself or reading for someone else. I don't get it. I would really love for someone to tell me. Please. Okay, the fifth superstition that I've heard about: the cards are the devil. They're a direct path. I've heard different series of that. The cards are the devil. The cards are linked to the devil. I've heard people blame different religions. I've heard people blame different people. I've heard all kinds of things. Again, in my opinion only, as with anything else, these are pretty pictures on paper. Maybe some cardboard. Hubba. It's a nice King of Wands. I don't understand it, and maybe I just haven't done enough research. I don't know, but I don't get it. They're pictures on paper. There are messages that go along with them, all made by people, right? This started off as a card game, so I don't get what people mean by they're linked to the devil. And it kills me actually when I hear people say that, Christians especially don't like it. It's really funny, because divination is actually referred to in the Bible many times, not just once. And so I don't get that. I don't get that piece. I'm not denying that there are definitely Christians and other faiths as well who believe that, somehow any sort of divination system is evil. Like, I know that they're out there. I know they're out there. And I had an experience this week with someone about that, but I just don't understand where that comes from. I think because the messages are so clear to people, people do get, their subconscious does pick up on messages, right, and make correlations with the messages that are being read to them, maybe by a card reader. And I think it just freaks them out. But quite honestly, I've certainly had readings and done even readings for myself where I've been like, holy crap, this is so deep and so meaningful for me. And, but do I think that it's a link with the devil or a link with God? No, I really don't. Actually, I'm using this as a personal development tool. And, sometimes I was talking about in my earlier video about looking into the meanings of the different cards and really studying the nuances. And sometimes it hits me. I don't know why some of these are upside down because I don't read reversals. I can go through every card, all the typical meanings of the cards, and see something that I relate to or that's relevant to my life right now. Maybe not every single one. At the moment, I would say that the tower isn't playing a huge part of my life, but it did. It did for a year, until earlier this year. So I don't know. Again, these cards and their meanings are supposed to encompass all of life's experiences. And so in some cases, they're pretty general, and I can find, sometimes I do flip through the books when I'm studying a particular deck, and I'm like, oh yeah, this card, I haven't done a reading for myself, but yet I look at the card and I go, oh man, I really do need to pay more attention to that. I think your subconscious just makes those connections. And I think that that's why tarot works. Again, this is totally my opinion. I think they are pretty pieces of paper or plastic with some ink and pretty pictures on them. I don't think you need a link to the devil in the first place to use your intuition. And the second thing is the artwork. The whole purpose of art, in my opinion, is to evoke an emotional response. It doesn't matter if the art is by Da Vinci, Van Gogh, a modern artist, including one who creates images on tarot or oracle cards. If they're supposed to evoke emotions, and sometimes those emotions can be strong dislike. They could be sadness and despair because they remind you of something. They could be meh, or they could be amazing to you and spark joy. And I truly believe that that's what comes through. You are the only thing you need, not some occult link. It's my opinion. Let me know yours. Okay, another just quick thing. Some of these things actually really irritate me a lot. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, other than superstition, is what to do or not do with the cards. There's a lot of gatekeeping that I've been seeing as well in this respect. So the first one is readings. So people use tarot cards and other divination systems for a whole host of different reasons. Some of those can be to actually tell the future, do some divination. Other people, or because you can do them, you can use the cards for multiple things. You're not just limited to one. You can use them for self-exploration, for self-development, for meditation, for divination, for all kinds of. Some people put them on their altars. If they have more of a pagan path and they have an altar, you can use them for all kinds of things. I think that's all great. You do you, whatever you need to do is great. I had, for me, I think I mentioned in a previous video that I suffer from chronic migraines, and I see a neurologist who recommended at one point, because the medication really hasn't been working. So he recommended at one point that I try some alternative forms of medicine, if you will. One of those things was meditation. Now, I tried meditation, just plain old meditation. I had picked up a book and I found it so freaking hard. It was just, it was the kind of meditation where you sit and you try to empty your mind of everything. And I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. There was just too much going through my head. I could not empty my mind. And I tried and I tried and I tried and it just wasn't successful. So I gave up. And at one point, he actually, he mentioned to me that, you could use something to meditate with. So you're not trying to clear your mind. You're actually meditating on something. And tarot cards were actually something that he mentioned. And I don't know if he reads tarot cards or knows someone who does, but he mentioned that this was something that he knew had helped people, because you can meditate on something as opposed to trying to empty your mind. And so that is one of the things that I use them for. I do find it helpful, and I also use them for self-exploration, personal development, that kind of thing. And I think it's fun to try the divination piece as well, to be honest with you. Okay, the second thing is modify them. In my opinion, this is a do. You may have a different opinion, but modify them to suit your style. Edging, trimming, that kind of thing. That's the reason I brought these cards out. I brought out a selection that I have modified to some extent. Some I just edged, and what that means is just taken the edges of the card deck and colored them a different color to suit whatever I thought might suit the deck. This was kind of a bold choice for me, but I thought it would be interesting. I'm actually really happy with it. Some come, by the way, pre-edged. So things like the Prisma Visions comes with a shiny, sparkly silver. And I'm actually quite mad about this deck, but I'll talk about that at some other point. So some already come that way. Others don't. When you get the deck, I'm just gonna pull one over here. Usually they'll just have white edges, right? And sometimes I find that quite jarring. The front will be quite nice, or the backs will be quite nice, and then the front might be quite nice, and then you have this white side. It's not a big deal. It doesn't affect the use of the cards at all. It just I kind of feel that if I'm gonna use them, I want, it's nice to have pretty things, pretty tools. And so that's what I've done with a bunch. I haven't done it with all of them. This is the Joie de Vivre deck by Paulina Cassidy. I love this deck, actually. I find it kind of cute and creepy at the same time. There's the Death card. Oh man, it's very cool. Anyway, and I edged that one in a very light lilac. Hopefully you can see that. My lighting is not great, guys. Sorry about that. I did the same to my shadowscapes. I did that in a slightly different color of lilac or purple. Actually, I'm going to come back to this one in a second. this is my, oh, that looks like a different card. Yep. Okay. This is my Mermaid tarot. And this one I did in different colors. So hopefully you can see that. Will it focus? I did this one in different colors of, different shades of blue and some greens as well. Just so it looked quite watery. And I'll talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages, by the way, of these. This is the Mystic Fairy Tarot. This is the one with the borders. I didn't, anyway, I got this deck in a lot of 10 decks that I had bought off of Kijiji. I did that one in a green because this one is all about forests and whatnot. And I thought it had an awful lot of gold on it, so I really like the green. My Everyday Witch Tarot, which I love. I edged it with a yellow to sort of pick up on the stars and the brooms on the back of the cards. Some of you, if you've watched my first video and I talked about how I hate yellow, or the yellow, specifically I hate all the yellow that's in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Yeah, anyway, but I do find that that's a different thing. Okay, this is the Wild Unknown deck. And I love the art in this one. Actually, I love the art in all of them. I bought all of them because I really like the art. And it is quite an eclectic mix, but I think that's great. So what I did with this one, everyone has seen this deck, right? I think it's one of the most popular ones, or it was for quite a while. It's all line drawings, mostly black and white with the odd pop of color. And so what I did was I used multiple colors for the sides of this one as well. And how I chose the colors, I mostly used, I think, 3 different colors. So there's a red, there's a purple, and there's a bit of an orangey red, and a lighter yellow, a lighter orange, almost a yellow as well. And how I chose the color was actually, I picked the color for the cards that had color, I picked the color that spoke to me the most on the specific card. And so that's what I did there. This is the Vampire, not tarot, Oracle. I really love this artist's work, and her name is escaping me right now. Anyway, I did this in a color that I thought would match the backs, which is basically a sort of a really nice brown, reddish brown, I guess. And my Goddess Oracle. This is the backs. And so I chose a color that sort of complemented, the sort of yellowish, brownish kind of color. So it's not quite an orange, but I just find it looks beautiful with the cards, especially when the cards don't have borders. I find it quite jarring to just have white sides, but that's okay. You don't have to do this. I just thought it was kind of fun, and as I was coloring the side of each card, I just used markers. I used Bic markers, by the way. When I tried using Sharpie, I found that it really bled onto the fronts of the cards, which I really did not like. Actually, you can see, here's one. You can see, I don't know if I can make that focus. probably can't see, but you can see particularly at the corners, that the blue sort of bled onto the front of the cards. You can see it there, I think. Anyway, it doesn't bother me too much. I'm okay with it. But I found that my kids had some Bic markers, and those work amazing because first of all, they dry by the time you get around to that fourth side. So when you put it down, they don't smudge at all. You can rub your fingers all over it, and it's absolutely fine. And they also don't bleed like that. So anyway, so that is the edging kind of thing. The other thing you can do with the cards, some people do, and I have done it with one of my decks here, is to actually trim the cards. So this is the Wild Unknown. And again, I really love this deck. I really wanted something that was more of an earthy kind of thing. I love it. The cards were just too big for my hands. My hands are not that big. And I think I have yeah. This is the card that, just the extra card, I guess, that came with the deck. So if I put these on here. Here. Let me just take one card. There's a difference. It's not a huge difference, but it's enough that it makes it a much nicer shuffle for me. So the backs, this is what the backs look like before. Sorry, I'm trying to avoid the glare. And now they look like that. So it just makes them a lot easier for me to handle, which is great because then I can actually use them. You know, if you're having difficulty with something, it doesn't matter if it's a hairbrush or a cards, you're less likely to use them, right? So in my opinion, knock yourself out, modify them to suit your style and needs. Now, some people on Facebook and on YouTube as well, I have heard say, oh, they do not like that at all because they say that it's rude and it's disrespectful to the artist, and just why would you ever do that? In my opinion, it would be much more disrespectful to the artist or damaging to the artist, frankly, to not buy a deck because it's just too big for my small hands, as an example. So this one, I did have a chance to try the regular size deck before I purchased this deck, and it was just too huge, and I wasn't going to buy it. And I then watched a video where someone had trimmed it and spoke about that. And so I decided to try it, and I love this deck. I love it. So if I could do something that's going to customize it specifically for me, I'm not going to sell this deck. That's not why I bought this. I may pass it on at some point. Who knows? I don't know the future. But you know, if I could do something that will help me to bond with the deck and use it more often, I think that's actually great. So you do you. Let me know what your thoughts are about it, and have you done any of that? I have made the decision, by the way, to not cut certain decks, so not trim certain decks. So for example, the Mystic Fairy Oracle, I thought it might be really great to have a borderless edition. That was before I knew there was a borderless edition already out. And so I took one of the extra cards that comes with the deck. Actually, it's quite cute. It's a little Fairy Farewell, and decided to practice on this before I did this even before, because I pulled out the Wild Wood and this one at the same time, thinking I might do both for different reasons. This one was just because I wanted it to be borderless. The borders kind of, frankly, I don't know, I find that they give a different feel to the deck in this case. And in this case, it was just for the size. So I practiced on a spare card, and I didn't like it. I didn't like how it came. I think at the backs, I really do like having that border. I don't know what you think, but I didn't like it, so I decided to leave this one as is. Now, the one that I have been hemming and hawing about, and I think I'm going to do, is trim the Shadowscapes deck. It's not critical. I've sort of hemmed and hawed about it, but I think there's so much going on in these cards. Here, check this one out. There's so much going on in this card, in these cards, that I think the borders kind of hem things in a little bit too much, and I think it would be great to have it without the borders. So what I would do is I would leave the bottom, so similar to the Wild Unknown, and just trim the sides and the top. And how do you do that? So with there's lots of videos, by the way, and one series of videos that I watched that was tremendously helpful was is by Boho Tarot. She does all kinds of different edging and trimming techniques. She rebacks some of the back of her cards where she doesn't like the backs. She puts it different. She gets contact paper and puts that on. And when she studies the cards, and if she thinks that the cards really don't, some cards really, this one might say Two of Swords, but maybe to you it says something different. Maybe it says the Three of Swords, I don't know, or the Two of Cups, I don't know. She has actually rearranged them as well, and she goes through that whole process. I really like that she, in particular with the edging and the trimming, she goes through the different processes and talks about the advantages and disadvantages of each. So the different materials that you can use to edge the deck and the different materials you can use to cut the decks. I almost ruined one or two of my cards with this, trying to, what was I using? I actually can't, I'm drawing a blank right now as to what I was trying to use, where I did cut into, the card shifted and I cut into it. And I found that scissors actually worked the best. But I have recently purchased a much better cutter. So I'm gonna try to use that with my Shadowscapes, although I do still have some spare cards, so I will try with those first. If I don't like it, then I'll go back to the scissors. But and then you use a corner cutter to do the corners, because I do not like the square corners. Okay, so that's basically it. The third thing, what to do, what not to do with the cards. What happens if you're missing a card? Sometimes a card just goes missing. Maybe your dog eats it, or your cat, or it just plain disappears. Is your deck totally useless? Some people don't want to use a deck with a missing card because they feel that it could affect the reading. So that's fine. You can still use the rest. Well, actually, first you can try to source the missing card. There are actually people on eBay and Kijiji and Craigslist and whatnot who will sell spare cards. It might cost you $5 or something for a card, but hey, if that gets you back to using a deck that you love, then why not, right? If you can't source it, and you don't want to use a deck with a missing card, then you can still use the rest of the cards. I've heard some people use them on their altar, if that's their spiritual path. They have also used them for different crafts. So again, I think it's Boho Tarot who had a deck that I don't think she was missing cards. I think she just didn't like the deck, or it was a spare deck or something. And she ended up using it for crafts, for a journal. She made her own tarot journal. You can use them for decorating, or you can use them for study purposes as well in a tarot journal, which I think is also something that she did. So there's lots of things that you can do with them. One thing, so in general, I keep saying on these videos, you do you. I'm not a gatekeeper. However, I do have a plea for you, and that is, please do not ever burn or throw out a deck in the garbage. Unless it's been irreparably damaged. So you dropped in a pot of boiling water, or I saw a Facebook post where a lady was at work and her husband sent her a photo of all of her tarot decks that her dog had completely chewed up and destroyed, and they just weren't salvageable. Okay, fine. You can throw those out, at least the ones that are irreparable. But please don't ever burn them. Please don't ever, ever, ever burn them. It's really quite bad for the environment. The inks, and especially the plastics that are used in their manufacture, because they are generally all coated. The only one actually that's not coated that I know of is this one here. And it says it right in the book that they are not coated, which means also that they're not as durable. But the plastics and the inks are really bad for the environment. Not to mention the carbon footprint just to get them to you in the first place is just terrible. So give a deck to a friend, or donate it to your nearest secondhand shops. There are loads of people who go around to secondhand shops. We have Value Village here, all kinds of different thrift shops and whatnot, and go searching specifically for tarot decks. I know someone last week who did that, who came to my city and just traveled around to the different thrift shops looking for them. The other thing you can do with them is to practice shuffling. See, like, I'm just not very good at it. I certainly need to practice shuffling. The third thing I wanted to mention, and probably the last thing for today, since we're getting quite long, is with preparing for readings. Just one thing to remember, and that is that the cards only answer the specific question you ask. I find it helpful to write the question down so that I can refer to it as I'm reading, and stay focused and answer the question. Always keep this in mind, whether you're reading for yourself or for someone else. Just make sure that by the end of the reading, you do actually answer the question, and you keep the question in mind when you're interpreting the cards. If you get a tower, for example, that doesn't always mean doom and gloom. It can, in certain contexts, mean something good. Maybe it's in the past position, and it says, you've gone through something radical, but things are now good, or something bad has passed from your life, which is also good for the person. So do keep that in mind. Anyway, that's not really a superstition or a what to do, what not to do, but I just wanted to mention that as well. Anyway, I'm going to stop this here, but thank you very much for watching. Let me know what your superstitions are, if you have any, or if you've heard of some that just make you mad. I would love to hear about them, hear your takes on them. And do you do anything else with decks that you that either have been damaged or you don't want anymore? What do you do with them? Do you pass them on? Do you throw them in the garbage? What do you do? I'd love to hear about them. And please, I would love to hear any feedback that you have, anything that you think that I haven't covered and really should cover. I'd love to hear that. So please leave me a comment down below. And until next time, tarot your truth, my friends.